Okay, so for those of you, I know probably half of you in here, I think, but my name is Lindsey Hornung. If you don't know me, I'm sure you know Mr. Hornung downstairs. He's my husband. Um, anyway, and Mrs. Picaric and I go way back. We grew up together, so kind of a quick about me. And I'm sure you all know, J.I. and I have a little girl, Avery, who is 6. Anyway, so a little bit about me, or I guess what I'm going to talk about today. I am a 5th-generation farmer here in Marshall County. I farm alongside my dad. We raise primarily row crop, corn, soybeans, and hay. And then we also have a cow-calf operation where we calve out cows in the fall. When you think of a farmer, what do you picture typically? Picture like an old guy in overalls, like every book shows, an old guy.
Golden top.
So anyway, when growing up on the family farm, I don't know, I always had an interest in ag from a little kid on. Always wanted to tag along with my dad and grandpa. They farmed together for a long time and was always an interest of mine. And as I got older, I always said I wanted to farm. And everybody was like, girls don't farm. You don't want to do that. But I was like, no, this is really what I like. As I got older, got more involved on the farm with my dad and grandpa. But I knew as I got older, at that time, when I was in high school, I graduated from Marysville in 2003. But I knew that probably wasn't going to be the right time to come back to the farm. Farming was pretty tough back in the early 2000s. But I knew I wanted to be involved in ag. And one thing, when we were growing up, our parents always made us be pretty involved. From a little kid on, we got started in 4-H. That was kind of the first thing. And we showed not a lot, but a decent amount of livestock when we were younger, and got involved that way. When I was in high school, I was in FFA. I played sports, like I said, 4-H all the way through FCCLA. I was in band for a while, did a lot of those kind of things. And when you're involved in things like this, or different organizations, you get to know a lot of people in the community. And those people will really, the more involved you are and truly take it to heart, a lot of these things, people will notice you more. If you're doing the right things, that you might meet the right person that maybe a job in high school, maybe something later on in life, whether it's after school, after college, whatever. But our parents always pushed, to be involved, to have a good work ethic, whatever you were involved in, and to always give 100%, and I know that's not possible all the time, but, to do those kinds of things. But like being involved in FFA, got to know a lot of community members doing different things. I was an officer in FFA for 3 years, but got to know a lot of those people in different sides of the ag sector. So after I graduated from here, I went to K-State and studied agronomy. I had a major in agronomy, which is crop and soil science. That was a side that I enjoyed more so than the livestock side. And then I also majored in ag economics. And so while I was there, again, I had a really good advisor at K-State. And one of the first things she told me, and several of us that she was our advisor for, told us as we came in as freshmen, was to get involved. Get involved. That's how you're going to meet people especially with your unique interest. And then, and so I joined an ag club when I was at K-State and got to know a lot of lifelong friends. While doing that, you get to know your advisors really well. You get to know your professors really well, more so than just sitting in a classroom. We traveled a lot to different meetings, seminars, things throughout the United States when I was at K-State, and got to know a lot of industry leaders and really kind of got to focus on different areas, kind of what were our interests, and kind of try to figure out what it is you wanted to do after you got out of college. So that was awesome. That led to a lot of opportunities being involved. And our advisor always told us, the more people you know, or the more involved you are, the more people you know, the more opportunities you're going to have. And to this day, I hold that kind of near and dear because it is very true. And when I was sitting here at your guys' age, you just, a lot of times you were in different activities because your friends were. It was fun. I mean, that's why you do a lot of it. But what you don't realize is how it's building you and your character and, into your young adulthood. When I was at K-State, one of the requirements to graduate was to get an internship. And everybody told us, do more than one internship. I mean, this is a way to figure out, go take a job doing something in the agronomy field. Figure out if it's something you like, if it's something you want to pursue, if it's something you don't like, and then try something else. And so I did a couple of them. I did one the first year working for a large co-op, kind of on the ag retail side. Not really sales, but kind of learning how the co-op works with seed, chemical, fertilizer, that kind of stuff, a little bit of input financing, kind of learning how to work with customers that you don't know, getting acquainted with them. And I did like that and thought, I'm going to do another internship the next summer and try something a little different, or kind of in that same vicinity, but it's something a little different. So I did crop scouting, going out, walking a lot of corn and soybean fields for farmers every week and kind of helping them make decisions, basically trying to, make them profitable with different practices that they were using. And that was, I did that. I was up in York, Nebraska, and really enjoyed that area. That area up there, it's northwest of here, about 2 hours. A lot of ag industry up there. Very highly productive area. Really like that area a lot. Lots of things going on up there on the ag side. So when I graduated, ag jobs weren't quite as easy to find as they are now. There were a lot of them out there, depending on what you wanted to do. One thing my parents always told us, they instilled in us that you need a higher education. So that's, one reason going to college. But you need that. That's something you can always fall back on, something nobody can ever take away from you. But to get out on your own. Basically spread your wings and try to fly on your own without always being there with mom and dad. You can always come back, but go out, work for someone else. See, you may love it, you may never come back, and there's nothing wrong with that. So anyway, after I graduated, I took an ag retail sales position in central Kansas at a large co-op. And I really liked working with the farmers I had. It was with the seed, fertilizer, chemical again. What I hated was sales. I learned real quick I hated sales. Some people are really good at it. I am not. Your husband is fantastic at it. But I thought, what do I do? What in the heck do I do? That's kind of why you did internships, trying to figure out what. But here I was in a position that I didn't like. I was in a place where I didn't really know anybody. Although it is when I met Mr. Hornung when I was down there in that Salina area. So I talked to my advisors. That was a huge perk of getting to know your advisors in school really well. Talk to them. What do I do? I don't want to be miserable, but I also know I don't want to just be the person that takes a job and a couple months later I quit. And her advice was, try to find something, keep working. You don't burn bridges. That's the last thing you want to do is, take a job for a couple of months and be gone. But, do your best. Work, give 100% again. The boss I had, he was fantastic. It wasn't the people. It was just the job, I guess, itself. But, try to find something that maybe you'd be interested in, Start job searching again. They helped a lot. And there were, I'm sure some of you have heard of the company Monsanto is who I found. I worked with your Uncle Scott, Cameron. But I took a position in York, Nebraska, because I like that area. That was another thing. Go, find an area that you really like. And I did like that area and started working for Monsanto in corn seed research, developing new corn varieties. And did that for a few years. We got married in that time frame, worked up there for a few years, really enjoyed the job. But in a year, it was exactly a year after we got married, a neighbor from where I grew up, a few miles north, he was getting ready to retire. And him and my dad had talked about this. We had always, that was our goal, eventually long term, was to come back home and farm. I didn't think it would be quite that soon by any means. My dad was actually farming on his own at that point. My grandpa had passed away by then. But Dad was farming on his own, had a hired hand, and it just wasn't the right time for me to come back to be able to support a family with just the farming. But anyway, this farmer was getting ready to retire, and he had talked to my dad, and he called me one day when we were living in York, and he said, "Hey, next time you're back, I want you to come back here, and I want you guys to stop by my house. I want to talk to you guys." And I had no idea what it was going to entail. But when we went, he hit us up and he said, "We're retiring, and, we've seen what you guys have done over the years. We would go back a lot of weekends. After work, we'd hop in the truck, come back a couple hours, and we'd work. A lot of times come back to the farm and work on the weekends or anytime we had a break, and even in college, and liked what he was seeing, that we were willing to work hard, and, what he thought was doing a pretty good job of farming, and offered us the opportunity to start farming his ground. So we took a huge leap of faith. The big thing was, we thought about it for quite a while, and at the same time, it was like, okay, we can come back and farm, but J.I. still needs a job. We're young, and we still need a guaranteed income. And J.I. had taught, for several years already. It just so happened a teacher here at the high school had just retired in the history department, and so he applied for the job, and lo and behold, ended up with it. So that was our way back here to start farming. So we started farming in 2010. And it kind of comes back to that being involved, who doing the right things. And, I was far from a straight A student by any means in school, but a lot of times they always say it's a lot of who you know. I mean, you got to know something too, but who will get you in, get involved with the right people, have the right people in your corner, will get you a lot of opportunities in this world. So since we've moved back, we've about doubled our farming operation in size. My dad and I primarily farm together full time, and obviously J.I.'s still teaching, and my dad's not ready to retire yet. So my dad and I, we own all of our equipment together. We own a lot of things together, own a little bit of land together, but we also have our own separate ground that I own, ground that he owns, ground that he rents, ground that I rent. So technically, I guess if you want to say we're our own bosses, not that I'd really call us bosses, but, we're together every day, all day, every day. Not every day, but pretty close to every day. It's a challenge working with family at times. You know that. Anybody who's worked with family, it can be a challenge at times, but at the end of the day, we might have a rough day. We might have an argument about something big, something little. I mean, it could be anything and everything. But at the end of the day, we're still family. And to us, that's as important as anything. And that's our number one priority. And, we always say it's up to each of us every day, Are you going to give 100% or are you going to give 10%? And like I said, you can't give 100% all the time, but that's your goal. Trying to do the best you can, especially in a job where you're your own boss. You're the one who decides, am I going to make it or break it? And there are times that you wonder if it's worth doing. It is, but it can be tough. But with farming, one of the greatest things is we get to work with family. With Avery, she's out in the field with us, not all the time, but a lot of times. And my sisters, their kids come out, during busy times of the year, harvest, planting. They can be alongside of us and come ride in the combine or tractor, that kind of thing. And so it's a lot of fun. It's a great, we consider it a lifestyle. Yes, it's a job, but it's our lifestyle. That's all I've ever known growing up. And even when I was out on my own after college, we wanted to come back on the weekends. It's like, what the heck is wrong with us? Why aren't we going to go do something fun on the weekends? Now let's go back and let's go work on the farm for the weekend. That was always kind of our fun. So We enjoyed it, and that's what I always tell people. It's like, trying to figure out what you want to do. You're probably not going to know at 18 years old. I didn't know at 18 years old. I didn't know at 25 years old exactly what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to farm, but up until then, I didn't know exactly what it was. And doing internships, being involved in different organizations kind of helps guide you that way. Going back to working with family or working with my dad on a daily basis, what's nice about it, we each kind of have our strengths and weaknesses, and we can work together really well with that. My dad's very mechanical minded. I am not. That is not my strength at all. He's very hands-on. He really enjoys the livestock side. Me, on the other hand, I love the crop science side. I take care of a lot of that on the farm. I've kind of been stuck into the accounting role, whether I like it or not. My mom has done a lot of it for years for my dad, but I've kind of taken that over. Working on that side, the finance side, have learned a lot. I took classes at K-State for that. Some probably didn't take nearly enough. We always joke that in farming, you should probably be an expert in about 50 different things, not just one thing. And, unfortunately, you can't do it all, but you try to take care as much as you can. I mean, I wish I had a degree in accounting. I wish I had a vet science degree. I wish I had an ag technology degree. I mean, there's just so many things that we work on a daily basis that you have to learn. I mean, if you're going to be successful, be your own boss, be an entrepreneur, these are things, and not just in farming, in anything in life, whether you're an entrepreneur or working for someone else, you learn a lot of things. One thing with our farming operation, we started adopting technology early on. I mean, basically starting even before I ever came back. My dad was an early adopter of GPS technology, and 20 years ago, I mean, it started with basically auto steer, auto guidance in tractors and combines, sprayers, things like that. And as the years progressed, seems like every year we pick up a little more and a little more. We do a lot of what you call variable rate technology. So within a given field on any farm, we're planting different seeds, different rates on different areas of soil. A lot of farms have, a couple different soil types, different topography, and not every acre produces the same. So we have adopted that technology to allow ourselves to basically put the right product on the right acre, so we're not wasting money and trying to get the best return we can, because at the end of the day, we're still trying to make a living and make a little money. So that's a big thing in our operation. Every pass that we make in a field anymore, whether it's with tractor, combine, sprayer, anything like that, we are documenting everything that we have. All of our equipment is equipped anymore with, everything's got a modem in it, sending all of our information to the cloud so we can see every pass we make. Same thing with machinery. I can see all of our machinery live all the time, whether it's on my phone, an iPad, computer, whatever it is, which is really nice. I can see everything in real time. We can see where everybody's at, kind of monitor things. We can monitor equipment, how efficient things are being, what we need to do to change things. I can do what you call a remote display access into a screen on a tractor or combine. If somebody has questions, or a guy like my dad who's not great with technology, even though he's adopted it, I get the call a lot, like, this button's not here anymore, and it's like, let me pull up your screen, there it is, push the button, that's all you have to do. But technology has taken us a long ways. Technology has made us extremely efficient, and has allowed us to be able to farm a lot more acres, really kind of in the same amount of time anymore. So, an average day, I would say, for us, no 2 days are alike. That's the nice thing, being a farmer, I guess. And that's a lot of jobs, not just being a farmer, but no 2 days are alike. This time of year, we're slower, obviously, than, our two busy seasons are harvest and planting in the spring and fall. Those times a year, you're working 7 days a week, you're fighting, you're playing against Mother Nature, trying to get things in the ground, trying to get things out of the ground or out of the field, because that's our payday. That's, we know if we don't get if we don't get things out in a timely manner or we're basically setting ourselves up for failure for the year. And, our biggest threat, is weather when it comes to farming. We can do everything right, but if Mother Nature decides, I'm not going to rain this year, or I'm going to bring a terrible storm in, several years ago, we had a big windstorm come through in the middle of July. That's been like 5 or 6 years ago. Wiped out a lot of corn, but one thing most farmers have is crop insurance. And, it's not cheap by any means, like any kind of insurance. You guys will learn as you get older. Insurance is extremely expensive, but if it wasn't for that, we could have been wiped out, in a year's time. You have to learn to protect yourself. You have to work with the right advisors, accountants, bankers, seed salesmen, you name it. You have to kind of get yourself with the right people who are in the same boat of trying to help you succeed. But yeah, no 2 days are the same. So like right now, we're working on insurance for next year. We're working a big thing this time of the year. I don't enjoy this time of year ag-wise because we are trying to get all of our books settled up for the end of the year, meeting with accountants, making sure that we don't owe Uncle Sam any more than we have to, just getting everything done all the end of the year, accounts done, ordering seed, ordering fertilizer, basically getting everything. We're finishing up a year, but we're already in full speed ahead, getting ready for next year, getting everything prepared, kind of getting equipment, going through equipment this time of year, whether we do it ourselves or take it. We do a lot of business out at John Deere at Landmark, taking it in, letting them go through stuff. So we're ready for the next year. We haul a lot of grain this time of year. We store a lot of our own grain on our farms in our own bins. And so this time of year, kind of, especially after the first of the year, we'll start hauling grain to markets, trying to find the best market for our grain. It is a slower time of year. This is the time of year we can do a lot more things. We have a lot more flexibility. That's what's nice in my world is I can take off for a lot of things for Avery right now. I can go to basketball games whenever I want to this time of year. We can do a lot more things, if we want to go somewhere. But then come spring, we start ramping up again. We'll finish like this fall when it started raining and snowing there around Thanksgiving. It totally shut us off. We finished harvest like the second week of November, and like we finished harvest one day, and like the very next day we were basically back in the field putting on fertilizer, just getting ready for the next year. Everybody thinks when harvest or planting is over for a farmer, like, oh, what do? You just sit there and wait for the next thing. Well, that is the next thing, and it was the very next day, and we didn't get it all finished. So come spring, when it starts to warm up again, weather gets nice, we'll be back in the fields getting ready, and then getting field prep ready for planting season, and that's about first part of April. We'll start planting again. And then planting goes into hay season, and hay season it just one thing into the next throughout the summer. And not every day like I said, not every day we're doing the same things. If it rains, we're going to get days off and might go do something, might work on repairs, might go take care of things that need, our attention that maybe we've put off because we've been busy in the fields. And then late summer, we kind of start to ramp up for harvest again. And by September, probably the second week of September, usually we try to be back in the fields for harvest, and just kind of makes a circle all year long. And in the fall, we also, we start calving with our cattle. So fall is an extremely busy time of year for us. But like I said, every day is different. We might be harvesting for a month straight, but every day you're somewhere else. Every day something new is going to present itself. After I left here this morning, my dad calls and he said, hey, what are you doing today? And he knew I was gone for a little bit. He had taken care of the cattle for me this morning, or helped. And he said, we have these trees that they had cut down last week. Hey, we need to get this taken care of, get these piled up, get these cut up. So that's what I did in between here. So it's always something different every day. And, if it takes off snowing like it did a couple of weeks ago, I'm not going to lie, other than maybe doing some chores in the morning with cattle, taking care of cattle, not a whole lot going on, so you get to kind of take care of your personal life. And but that's the beauty of the farm life. It's a lot of work, but at the same time, there's a lot of reward with it. It's kind of a high risk, high reward. Like I said, weather and markets are our biggest challenge. We have absolutely no control over the weather, and we have absolutely no control over the markets. Everything else we can kind of control ourselves, but those are the biggest things for us, and those are the two big make or breaks when it comes to farming. Like I said, I feel like some days you have to be an expert in all different areas, and you learn a lot of hands-on. I always said when I was in college and did internships, and a lot of people will say this, you go out and try to figure out what you want to do, but you'll learn more. Seems like, for me anyway, it seemed like you learn more in a summer than you did in a year's time in college. You learn a lot of things. It kind of makes everything tie together. Why we've learned this, why this is important, kind of ties everything together and makes you understand a lot more why you were learning certain things and how things work in the real world. But at the same time, it's also getting you prepared for real life, problem solving, I guess. So, in the wintertime, well, kind of all throughout the year, we go to a lot of meetings, seminars, different classes, continuing education, just to kind of keep ourselves up to date, whether it's on the technology side or the seed side or the cattle side. We do a lot of that kind of stuff. So, and again, kind of going back again, my dad and I and all of our family try to stay as involved in the community as we can. Because again, you never know who you're going to meet, what opportunities may arise from someone that you've met. I'm on the Farm Bureau board here in the county. I'm on the Marysville Community Foundation. I'm on our township board. I help coach T-ball. I'm on the school PTO with Avery right now. We do a lot of NJIs too, does a lot of different things, or we're involved in our church. And, a lot of people, you get to know people that maybe you wouldn't, kind of in your circle of friends or, your work circle, you get to know a lot of different people. And, people, when you least expect it, a lot of times opportunity seems like it will arise. So, yeah, that's kind of who we are, what we do, and yeah. So the class this morning was asking me about some of the technology stuff, and I said, well, I have my stuff here. I like you guys know this, everything is at your fingertips anymore, but they asked me, where do you farm at? So basically, we are from Home City, north to the state line, over to Oquito, and kind of a big triangle in there is where we're based out of, and fairly close, everything centrally located, pretty close to home for us, but I don't know if you guys are a lot bigger class than the other one, but this is kind of an overview of where we farm, different things we can see. Like I said, every pass we make, it's documenting everything for us. I'm not on the internet anymore here, but I guess I am. But like this last fall, here a month ago, this is a farm that I just pulled up this morning. But when I went through and was putting on anhydrous this fall, nitrogen for our corn for next year, this is showing, we do, like I said, a lot of things on variable rate. This isn't too much of a variable rate, but you can see each pass that I make on here, each rate that it's putting on. We document all that, like I said, to help us make decisions throughout the farm. There's all kinds of things. Somebody asked me this morning, why is each field a different color? Blue ones represent applications, so fertilizer, chemical, that kind of thing. Orange represents harvest, so that was the last pass we made. Brown is a tillage operation, and when we plant it, it'll turn green. So those kinds of things. You can see some of our equipment that is online right now, like right here, there's a sprayer and a couple of combines, for a few tractors up here. If they're moving, I can touch them. They can tell me all kinds of detail, more detail. And same thing with all the data it sends back from the fields. It can tell me all kinds of equipment, exactly where it's at. It can tell me all kinds of equipment performance. I can analyze data, numbers that are more numbers than I'll ever use in my lifetime. So, a lot of these things that we use on a daily basis. Another thing I guess I didn't show this morning, we were talking about last night, when we go to fill our sprayer with chemical, everybody thinks, not everybody, but people think in this world, farmers go out and they're just covering their crops in chemicals all the time, which is a total lie. We're trying to go after certain weeds to kill the weeds to keep from competition. Anyway, it doesn't really show much on here, but when we go to fill up our sprayer, we have it all programmed into here. It is putting the exact amounts into a sprayer every time so we don't over apply. First of all, that's costing us more money than we need to be spending, but it's also being environmentally sound. That's kind of always our goal, is to leave the ground better than you found it. There's different things in here. We can, each time I load a sprayer, it can tell me exactly exactly how much of each product I put in. So everything is being recorded for our use, for, if anybody ever had any questions or if anything were to ever happen on accident, we have everything here. So a lot of technology. I never thought I'd be quite so involved in technology, and in the last 15 years that I've farmed, it's crazy how much we've started to use and have adopted over the years, and how much better it's made us. So, yeah. Any other questions?